So, as we stated earlier, oftentimes you'll hear a man say as he elevates that I couldn't be here without my woman, my wife, my girl, whatever. I am a better man because of her. So what does that say? That says that man somehow changed, elevated, became someone better than who he was initially when they first got together. And it's as a result to the level of support and all of these things that she provided for him. Women know that they have that ability.
Yep.
They know that they have that ability and they're fully aware of it. The issue is that, and let me talk this one out. The issue is that they want to use that ability on somebody who is not going to change for them, because that man doesn't necessarily see that value in her. And I'm speaking from a woman who's a good woman who has some semblance of being someone who would be a good partner in a relationship, but she just got with the wrong person, thinking that she could elevate him. She could use her natural God-given ability to elevate her, because that's what God put them on earth to do. He was put there to be a helpmate to Adam. So that means that she was there to help elevate him to the level that he needed to operate in. All right, welcome back to Relationship Talk with Juanito. I am Coach Robinson, aka Juanito, and today I'm joined again by Big G. Big G, say what's up.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how's everything going, man?
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm saying one more day down, and we'll have this Christmas thing over with, so we can get through and get done.
Yeah, hey, listen, the way my pockets are set up right now, Christmas.
And the savings.
Hey, listen, Christmas is, my kids want all the expensive gifts this year.
Oh, iPhones with the watch. God damn.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Hey, so I got a topic for you today. All right, and so we can have a discussion on it. I asked the question at work to kind of gauge if it was a good question. We probably had an hour and long discussion, kind of off and on, a little bit of work in between on the topic. So here's the topic. Who do you think is better at identifying a good partner, and who do you think is best equipped to then deal with said good partner? And so if you have a average to good man, not from a visual standpoint, but from a character, mentality, work ethic standpoint, how likely is he to choose a not good woman or a good woman versus a decent to good woman? Like I said, from character, mentality and all of these things, how likely is she to pick a not good man versus a good man? And then out of the two, who is best positioned to deal with said good partner?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So I'm dive into this because statistics shows us, and yes, statistics do show us that men tends to be the one who has a better chance of, like you said, an average guy finding or selecting a average good woman like that, due to the fact that most men, we wish to date outside our visual scale and our financial scale. But when reality hits us via homeboys, friends, society, other women, so we tend to stay within our score zones. And we tend to see those men find, good women, because in our score zones, there are good women. And you typically find those women that want the same things that you want, and due to the simple fact of also the nature of the men and woman hunt, when women want to be pursued, and men are the hunters. So we're going to have, yes, in that capacity, better numbers in searching out and getting that woman. Just those two sections alone, dating in our score zone, and the fact that we are the men and we do the more pursuing, so we're doing the majority of the selecting, that tend to be us.
Okay. All right. So I too agree that men are better at selecting good women. And for the simple fact that history just kind of proves it, right? You
Yeah.
know, you hear that you will hear a man say, "Oh, I didn't get to this place without my wife, my girl. She made me a better person." She Women have the natural propensity to come in, and that nurturing ability and that ability to uplift, they have that naturally. And so if you're a good man, even if she doesn't necessarily have all the best qualities in other areas, by the sheer nature of who you are as a person, you can shape and mold those things. You can help work through those things. You can help her fit into your framework and your structure that you have already built for yourself. And so, with that, she can then focus on improving the areas where she needs improvement, but also cultivate her natural abilities as a nurturer and as a kind of motherly like figure. Now,
Mhm.
what I will say is part of the reason that guys are better at selecting is because 9 out of 10 times, well, not 9 out of 10 times, but a good majority of the time, they've had some semblance of a good woman in their life, i.e., their mother, grandmother, sister, auntie,
Mhm.
whatever, right? And you can readily identify who those individuals are early on in your conversation and early on in your dating, because those are the individuals that they speak highly of. On the flip end, especially in today's society, there are a good portion of women who can't readily identify who a good man is because they've never seen or experienced that in their personal lives. They've seen it on social media and on, TV and through society, but because they've never really had that, because some of them have never really had that personal experience, they can't readily identify it. And therefore, even if they are lucky enough to get said good man, they're not equipped to be able to deal with him, because some of the quality that are going to come with a good man is, like we were saying on the last podcast, is boredom. There's going to be structure. There's going to be stability. There's going to be all of these things that are not exciting things that pop up on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Sure, there's going to be times where you maybe go on a trip here, or go do something exciting, but it's not going to be the vast majority of your relationship, because there's going to be focus on other areas, elevating both as individuals and as a couple and eventually as a family. So if you have never experienced that and you don't know what that actually looks like, i.e., the woman, then you're likely to fumble that bag. Or,
Mhm.
especially if your idea of what a good man is, or your idea of what a man, period, is, comes from a societal standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the big things in this red pill era that a lot of women don't like men to be involved in. But that's one of the statements that they said. If a woman comes from a family where there's no man, auntie, uncle, cousin, and she has no remnants of what a good man looks, what a good man is, don't date that woman. And women get upset about that. But you so eloquently explain why that is the truth. If you never seen something, how do you know something exists? And women have a hard time understanding that. They feel like they can go off this rapper's girlfriend and how he treats her. But in your personal life, if you've never seen something, that's why they say that with our daughters, now they talk about how our sons needs us. They do, but our baby girls needs us a lot too. Because they say that dad is a daughter's first boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Because he teaches her how a man should treat her. He teaches her how a man should love her, how a man should comfort her. And so if one, you don't have that in your life and you didn't grow up around that, you don't know what a good man looks like. And all these picturesque things that you see on TV, these and YouTube, where 90% of that is fake because they're doing this to obtain a following, to cash in and to make money. So if I got to sit on this camera for 20 minutes to do these little things for us to make money, okay, cool. Once this camera go off, I go back to not liking you. And then you see 3 or 4 years down the road, this couple breaks up, and the next thing you know, it blows up, and they're talking, they sending shots at one another because it was never that. Then you, as the person on the other side who fantasize about that, now you picked in the side, and usually women gonna take the woman's side. Sometimes the men gonna take the men's side. And that's just what it is. But you eloquently put it together that if you've never seen something, never had something to outline, you don't know, you know what I'm saying, what it is. So that right there is an example. You can't choose the right thing because you've never seen the right thing.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dynamic because most of the men nowadays are from, like we discussed, are in between the ages of 18 and 33, are without a relationship, are in sexless marriages, or haven't even had a girlfriend. And so the fact that that is taking place, right?
Mhm.
It has created this dynamic that there's a large portion of the quote unquote toxic men that are getting into these relationships. But those men are setting these women up for failure. And it's causing this weird dynamic within the relationship space where you have guys who are on the far left who have either completely walked away from relationships, which it's not nearly as occupied as this space over here, where a large portion of women have decided that all men are dogs and all men ain't shit. And there's this group of individuals who are operating within the middle ground who, they're being pulled in either direction, and they don't necessarily know what to do or what to say or how to act or respond. It's interesting, like you'll get the guys who are simping for the women that would never give them the time of the day from the beginning, and you got the women who are categorizing the men who are just there existing, into this group that's all the way over here. So it's like nobody is getting into any real relationships, and because everybody is moving away, or huddling in the middle, just trying to hold on to what semblance of a relationship that they're able to somehow latch on to.
Well, I see it as this. Women use that area of simping, like I'm saying, because in actuality, they want someone, like I'm saying, they want the person in their head to do that for them. But they're not understanding that the person that they want, they maybe don't qualify. So that person is not going to do that. So they're going to be down here with the average guy who's going to simp and do all this. And so they make the bills. If you're not paying all the bills, if you're not doing all of this, you do. But 3 of their baby daddies did. But they make these outlandish claims because they want that. And they're trying to speak to the men up here to say, this is what you should be doing for me. And when actuality, these men are saying, I don't have to do that for you because you want to be up here, because you want the status of being with a man like me. So you're going to allow me access to the most valuable thing you have to offer, your body, because you want the status, and they don't understand that. They want to call it love, but this guy do not care for you because you see him with multiple women. So if you see a man with multiple women, and you look at them and you be like, wow, then you look at yourself and he comes here to mess with you and you think that you have a shot to be, you should understand this man has the pick of any woman that he wants. So you are hoping that this man picks you, and then in return, after you've seen him deal with multiple women at a time, they get in their head to think he's gonna change because of me. Why?
So I am so glad you said that, because I actually was going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a misconception that women have of themselves. And let me play this out for you. So, as we stated earlier, oftentimes you'll hear a man say as he elevates that I couldn't be here without my woman, my wife, my girl, whatever. I am a better man because of her. So what does that say? That says that that man somehow changed, elevated, became someone better than who he was initially when they first got together. And it's as a result to the level of support and all of these things that she provided for him.
Mm-hmm.
Women know that they have that ability.
Yep.
They know that they have that ability, and they're fully aware of it. The issue is that, and let me talk this one out. The issue is that they want to use that ability on somebody who is not going to change for them, because they don't, that person, that man doesn't necessarily see that value in her. And I'm speaking from a woman who's a good woman, who has some semblance of being someone who would be a good partner in a relationship, but she just got with the wrong person, thinking that she could elevate him. She could use her natural God-given ability to elevate her, because that's what God put them on earth to do, to be a Eve was put there to be a helpmate to Adam. So that means that she was there to help elevate him to the level that he needed to operate in. So oftentimes they use that ability on somebody who is not either ready to change, who is not going to change, or, doesn't have that desire. Meanwhile, and this is the part that I think they don't, in their mate selection process, I think this is the part that a lot of them leave out. Men in general, we're very simplistic creatures. We don't need a lot. Men against men on men, not from a sexual standpoint, but just in a group, we don't need a lot, right? We don't need a big ass house. We don't need a fancy car. We don't need a whole lot of nothing. For the most part, you give us a 1-bedroom studio or a 1-bedroom apartment, a TV, sofa, and a mattress with some food, and we're good, right?
Ooh.
We're good. And don't forget the PlayStation or some sort of gaming system, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, we're good with that. Enough money to live off of, we're cool with that. But we have a natural need or want for a relationship. And therefore, there's a requirement that comes with that relationship. You have to have the ability to provide. You have to have the ability to protect. Therefore, we invest in things that are going to signal Peacock to the woman that we have those abilities, right? We go to the gym, we work out. We, buy nice cars or somewhat decent cars, or get a house or a nice apartment, or we're trying at whatever level we're operating in to signal to the women that are around us that, hey, we can do this. And it's all done naturally. We don't sit there and think about, right, I'm gonna go get a job so I can get a wife and a blah blah blah. No, it's just something that's ingrained in us. But if we're operating from a standpoint, keep in mind, I'm talking about those 33% of guys who aren't getting play, who they're not getting that signal that, hey, I need to peacock. So guess what? They are just over there existing because nobody's showing them any love. Nobody's showing
Mhm.
them any attention, right? Nobody is willing to come into their life and invest in them. Because the moment that you start investing in them and you start making them believe in themselves and help elevating their confidence, that natural responsibility that is there is going to then take over. And obviously, there may be some need for some education to really understand what path you need to take and all of these other things. But men will naturally do that for the woman who provides value to them, who shows that they have a vested interest in them, because that's what we want. We want to be able to do that. We want to be able to be in a position to be able to carry the load, because that's how we were made. That's how we were built. That's why we're bigger, stronger, faster. You know, our shoulders are broad to be able to carry the load. And so I think where all of these women are chasing after these top tier guys, the top 10, 20% of guys who have already established themselves and already know that they can get whatever woman that they want. So if you're willing to give up the box really easily, why should I invest any time or effort into you? Because you've pretty much, how are you going to come into my life and elevate? Most of them ain't, because they just want the dollar. And so therefore you get into situationships, or you just get, smashed and dashed, whatever it is. Meanwhile, a guy that would be a great father, a great husband, a great partner is over here not getting the love and attention that he needs. So a smart woman, if she can pinpoint that kind of guy, that all he needs is for you to come into his life and believe in him, she could have everything that she wanted.
Mhm. Now, in that same scenario, a guy with means, all right, who's searching for that, you know what I'm saying, that woman to help elevate him in other ways and do other stuff. The movie Pretty Woman. The old girl was a prostitute. You know what I'm saying, and he was like, she the one. You know what I'm saying, Anthony Davis, Mr. Laker at the time, a woman that was a waitress at a resort that he was vacationing at. We see the men of means. We see, you can look, I ain't gonna say a man with means, a man that has good intentions. All right. He sees value where others might laugh. Now, everybody was laughing at the young lady. Oh, he married a waitress? It was somehow where she came over and said, Mr. Davis, here's my tie. Hope you enjoy the rest of your trip while you're here in wherever he was in the Bahamas. That caught his attention. That little chance meeting right there, he was able to visualize, wow, she has something. And that's countless other times. A woman in that situation who has a little bit of coinage behind her, she's not looking all levels. She's only looking at her level and above. Now, the odd part about it is that a guy comes over, how you doing, ma'am? You know what I'm saying, I just paid for your coffee and blah, hope you enjoy your day. Well, she's not taking that gesture as, oh, a man has brought me a coffee. She's saying, I can get that on my own. You got to do something better than that. You got to show me something. Why? Why do a man have to do something better than genuinely be kind and actually want to get to know you? What gesture, other than being kind to you and wanting to get to know you, does a man have to offer? Do you know?
So I think part of that is due to the societal shift where, women have become more and more independent. A bit of an ego has, they have developed egos and entitlement. And so there is a false belief that because of this ego and entitlement that they've developed, that they are somehow above approach, above a coffee date, above, a simple compliment. And you see it on like some of these videos on Facebook and YouTube, like the gold digger things, where they're like a girl will be walking by and he'll try to introduce himself or pay her a compliment, and she gives him the side eye and kind of shrugs off or whatever, or makes a little snide comment or whatever, and then he walks over to his Lamborghini, and all of a sudden she want to come around, not knowing that she's already disqualified herself off the rip. Because it only requires you to be a decent human being. Nothing says that a simple compliment or a question, something like that, requires you to have to pay some sort of attention or, have a date with somebody. Just be a decent human being, say thank you. That's an example of this inflated sense of ego and this inflated sense of entitlement, to where if a guy just wants to be a nice person to you, that's a bit too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And even from the standpoint of that, once again, roles are reversed. Now, if a low average girl, tends to be attracted to a man, most men will, I ain't gonna say entertain, but most men will have a conversation. I've been there before, in my younger days. Knew a girl, they say, oh, so-and-so like you now. Just on a visual standpoint, so-and-so girl wasn't what I liked, but I didn't show off. Go over and talk to, hey, what's up? Oh, so now come on, you like your boy? Oh, come on. The banter went back and forth. Didn't make it feel like, or try to shatter her dreams. It feels like if a guy doesn't meet the qualification visually for women nowadays, the goal is to shatter his dreams, to break him down to where he doesn't want to ever approach a woman ever again.
And it's not even visually. If the perception of him being quote unquote a brokey.
Yeah.
Because you see it like all those videos, right? The moment he goes to, and these are like dudes that are busted trucks.
Yeah.
These are semi decent looking dudes, 7'6", I don't know. However,
Yeah.
a woman would rate them, but I know what busted trucks look like.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so it's not like they're one of them, but the moment that they show that car or make a move towards the car, then all of a sudden they want to pay some attention. And because it's so prevalent and so out there on social media, that guys have just kind of been, to some degree, just kind of like disconnected themselves from even trying, because what they're saying to themselves is, if that's what I have to do to even get your name and number and have a conversation with you, why should I even try?
Yeah.
But all things equal, a guy will happily show any woman some sort of attention, some sort of appreciation for them being themselves or however they show up in their life. Meanwhile, shit, I can't even get a thank you by holding the door.
Well, you killed me when you said that 2 weeks ago. Because I'm a very boisterous individual, I say something.
No,
I don't
yeah,
just hold the door.
we talked about that. I just, it's just like that's something so small, so insignificant.
So small,
Like it doesn't change any part of your day. It has zero effect on you. It only shows that you're a somewhat half decent person that I just so happen to come across, because you have the decency to say thank you. So if I was a man that had money and I was looking for a woman, and you were single and you were looking for a guy, I wouldn't give you the time of day, because you've already shown your character in that very moment. And I think this is a lot of things. This is why I say women that, given things are equal, women wouldn't be able to choose the right guy for them, because number one, they haven't seen it. And number two, their ego and entitlement and belief that they're above even the most average decent guy leads them to show discontent and disrespect to a lot of guys.
So let me ask you this:
and it leads to disqualification.
So let me ask you this: do you think that women overlook character, looking for a character of a man?
Oh, that's a bar right there. Do they overlook character, looking for a character? I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes is because they don't know how to delineate between the two. They can't tell, they don't know the difference between the two. The assumption is that the character has character
Mm.
because he's a character.
Right.
But the guy who gets up every day, goes to the gym, works out with discipline, gets up, goes to work and is on time, works hard, you know, is smart with money, lives a good, decent life, lives within his means, has the ability to provide for himself, because that's number one, right? He first has to have the ability to provide for himself. If he shows up, like it used to be a time where a guy that had a car, had a house or an apartment, you know, had a place of his own,
Mm-hmm.
like that was the first gateway to entry. Unless you were like, you know, in college or still in high school or something like that, you were still relatively young. If you were in your, you know, mid 20s, that was your first gateway, right? That was your first, the first presentation of provision.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is it, that is a mute and irrelevant point to, ironically, in the dating stage it's a mute and irrelevant point, but it still holds true. It's just now at what level.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I get you. I get you. It's almost like this high school all over again, but now we're playing with higher stakes. Um,
Explain.
like you said, now you said that was the first level of provision and protection, but now provision and protection is here, and now you're trying to put a specific amount on my provision and protection because I may not have all the provision, but I have protection. I can make sure you're good. Well, you're gonna say no because I need you to provide. I need that provision. All right. So even though I can protect you at this level, because I don't have the coins about it, you said I don't qualify to protect you. Now, so you put an amount on what protection and provision is. If I have the provision and I can't protect you, you're going to be okay with that. And the reason why you're going to be okay with that, because you're going to run to another man. You see what I'm saying?
So are you saying that women's ability
Most,
to entertain more than one man allows them to have some sort of flexibility in how they go about dating?
well, you see, that's right. Now, like I'm saying, if you have the protection, but not the provision amount, you don't qualify. But if you have the provision amount, but I know you can't protect me, you still qualify, but I'll go search that provision out over here, protection out over here. Because most women, when they're dealing with another man, he's the total opposite of what they deal with. So most women have a Stanley at home simping, but she'll go, but the Pookie and the Ray Ray be the one that she's having the fun with. Pookie and the Ray Ray, they can't provide her the lifestyle, but for some reason, she feels safe with him.
So that's a failure on the Stanley. That's a failure on the Stanley because you shouldn't go into a relationship or you shouldn't be seeking a relationship if you can't get the basics down, right? And provision is a part, I mean, protection is part of the basic package of what it means to be a man in a relationship. So you have to have the basics down. If you can't fight, you got to be able to, you have to be wise in your decision making. You have to be, uh, you have to have a accelerated or a heightened sense of awareness, or you have to be able to shoot. One of those three things.
Conceal carry, baby.
So if you're lacking in all those areas, you got to go back to the lab and figure that out because you can't try to show up looking for a relationship when you ain't got that down. Now, provision is, if we're speaking strictly to the financial piece, that takes time, right? But
Oh yeah.
you can elevate over time. So a smart woman understands that. She understands
Smart
that,
one.
and she understands that, okay, the protection piece he's got down, the provision part, he may not necessarily be there, but I can see his vision. I can understand his plan. I can see that he is making moves in his life that is working towards said goal, said desired place in life. And he just needs my support, or he needs me to uplift him, or he needs me to take a little bit off his place so he can focus his attention here,
Mm-hmm.
and then he can elevate. I retired from the military making $89,000. When my wife met me, I was making less than that. I was making probably 70,000. Now we just under 200,000. From the time we met to where we are now, we've elevated. And we've elevated together, because she's making more money than she had ever made in her life. And I helped her get there. And by she does things that allow me to elevate. So for example, she is watching my son right now, keeping him under wraps while I do this podcast, so he ain't running through the house screaming at the top of his damn lungs like he done lost his mind.
Lost his mind.
And it seems insignificant, but guess what? If he's running through the house like that, I can't do this.
Can't do that. Yeah.
And so it's a critical piece to the much larger puzzle. And sure, it may not be, she may not be setting up the lights and running this and doing that, but it's a critical piece to the success. And so when I elevate, she then elevates with me.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if it was you that showed me the video last week or week before, on the Pop the Balloon, where the guy was talking to this woman, and you might didn't.
It was me.
It was you. To me, where she was saying, "Hey, I'm going to do, you know what I'm saying, whatever you want to do."
You want me to pull up the video? You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let me pull it up. Keep talking.
But that right there, when she said, "I'm going to allow you to do wherever you want to take me. I'm not going to intervene. If you want to take me for a walk, that's what we're going to do. Because I want you to be comfortable, you know what I'm saying, in how you want to approach me. Whatever you want to do, that's what I'm going to do on the first date." A lot of people in those comments attacked her for that. And when I say people, women. Why are you not setting your standard? Well, that is her standard. Allow the man to be the man where he's most comfortable. Allow him to dictate, because I think she understood is because I'm going to show you what I can bring to you. So date 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be way better than date 1. Back to your thoughts about elevating. She knew wherever we start, I know I'm not going to be there for long, because I'm going to show him what a woman is supposed to be like. And I'm going to show him how I'm going to add value to his situation. And I know the dates after that are not going to look like date 1. They don't, the women in those comments didn't understand that. They want to be shown extravagance right off the jump. And it goes back to, and most men like, well, what am I going to get for extravagance? And it's not really about sex. It's what am I going to get? So if I go out and spend $400 or $500 on you in the first meal, and you decide, oh, I don't like you, I'm out of $400 or $500. Where did you do that at? I was in a store with this woman, but the little dude was trying to buy cologne. And so I was sitting my perfume for a young lady. So I'm sitting there telling him, like, hey, look, man. And so he said, his mama come over there. No, you're not buying no little girl no $200 cologne. I said, yeah, that's right. But then I said, what you say, mama? My son ain't buying no girl no two. She better tell her dad. Ironically, you say that. But you'll tell a man he better spend $300, $400 on a meal for you. But you won't tell your son to do that for another young lady.
Did she tell a man to spend $300, or was that just an assumption you made?
That was an assumption. I ain't gonna lie, that was an assumption. But I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? It's just somebody.
Well, how? First off, how old was the guy?
The dude was 16.
All right. So, first off, mom is absolutely correct.
Yes, yes.
And
I stood.
yeah,
I
listen,
stood. I wasn't finna sell him no $200 for. I was telling him, nah, we're gonna be up here with the $70, $80, dog. Man, I want to.
he don't need to be doing that. He don't need to be, and he don't need to be doing that.
Yes.
And so I had the exact same conversation with my son about he wanted to buy a girl a gift for her birthday. I was like, cool, gift card. Take it, throw it in a card, give it to her. Keep it simple, low amount. It shows that you appreciate her for her birthday,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't set it doesn't set, this expectation that she's going to be able to get something from you outside of that because you like her, you want to invest more into her. No, keep it small and then wait for her to reciprocate her time, attention, affection towards you.
Yeah.
And if she never does, you don't lose much.
You don't lose much.
And boom, keep it pushing. So I got the video pulled up.
All right, play that thing.
Trying to see where your mind is. So I'm gonna let you ask the question because you are the initiator, and I'll follow that.
So what does your initial first date look like with a man?
My initial first date is asking him where he wants to bring me, and daytime, is he a planner? So I will know kind of where he's at and what he has in store and what type of life I would be walking into. So my initial first date would be up to the man. I would not want to be the one planning that.
So I'm gonna stop it right there.
Mm-hmm.
She's acing the test already, right?
Already.
She is putting the onus on him, right? On him. But as this goes on, I want you to watch the other women around her.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't saying like plan, like what type of stuff would you like to do on the first date as far as, are you into?
I want to do what he wants to do.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm there to learn him,
Yeah.
and I'm there to know him.
But he got to learn you too, though.
And he'll learn me when I walk into his world.
Okay. God damn. Okay.
But walk into my world first, I'm not providing a world for you. So
Not at all.
my world really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It matters to the extent of what have I cultivated?
Yeah.
Have I nurtured my world? Where can my world take him, right? When I enter his world. So that's why I won't present the preconceived notion of what I want to do, because he might show me something new. And now I just
Right.
limited myself
Yeah.
to what I'm already exposed to, and I never gave him a chance to step me into his world. So
Damn. Okay. Can we bring her up here or what?
This video shows you quite a few things, right?
Hey, before you get started, did you just see he didn't want to speak to nobody else?
Yeah. No, I was just getting ready to go down that road.
Okay.
So number one, power of femininity. That little clip of what he said at the end, power of femininity. He was like, nope, I don't want to talk to nobody else. I like her.
Her.
I think that that video should be studied by especially the younger generation of women. Because there is this thought that, especially, within the discussion of older men dating younger women. And one of the things that they use as a point of disgust or the ick is that there's a belief that man just wants to mold her and manipulate her and into thinking and or doing whatever he wants her to do. He wants to have control over her and blah, blah, blah. Which is a false narrative because, as we discussed earlier, guys come with framework and structure. And what we're looking to figure out is whether or not you can live and operate within that framework and structure. 9 out of 10 times, if your relationship experience hasn't been tainted or tarnished by a litany of bad relationships, then you are more susceptible to falling within that framework and structure or learning how to operate within that framework and structure, and therefore there's a good opportunity for you guys to build a life together. However, what does this video show? This is not a young woman. This is a somewhat older woman, a well-established woman who understands that the man comes with framework and with structure, and that I am looking to figure out whether or not I can operate within the framework and the structure that you have built. And so therefore, I don't want to have to make decisions. I want to know what kind of framework and structure you have built for your life. And is it a good fit for me?
Mhm.
That is what she is displaying. She is telling him, I don't worry about getting to know me. Getting to know me will be a byproduct of our interactions with each other. What I want to know is I want to know who you are operating as a leader within your own life, and what kind of man will you be as a potential partner, a potential husband, a potential father.
I took it as you will know me by how I learn you. And what I mean by that is you showing me everything and you seeing my reaction and how I am, that's going to be your answer. So I can tell you anything, but you show me, you take the lead, and by me following, you're going to learn me.
Yep, you'll learn what kind of follower I am.
You'll learn what kind of follower I am.
And here's the thing, right? It's not a control dynamic.
No.
It's not I am the man, you follow me. It is a willingness to say that he has his stuff together. I want to follow him. That's a different dynamic right there.
Hey, I was watching this guy today, and it was a little short, and he was talking to some women. The woman says, and they having a little conversation about, right on. He said, my woman is the epitome of femininity. She allows me to lead. And when I mess up, and she understands that I'm going to come back and say, hey, I messed up. And so the girls was like, well, why don't she just, he said, no. Because she's know I'm going to come back. She said, but what if you don't? She said, because my woman knows that I'm going to, if I make it, whatever I lead us into, and it's the wrong thing, she's know at some point I'm going to come back and say, hey, I was wrong. You was right. She don't have to pitch a fit. She don't have to go crazy, throw it up in my face. I'm saying she understands that I am the head, and my decision making is always the best. He said, I'm not going into making a decision to hurt her or hurt this situation. He said, I'm going to listen to her. She's going to tell me how she feels. She's going to tell me that, hey, I think that we should do it this way. And he said, most times, he said, I'm going to say, I agree with you. We're going to do what you say.
Yeah. So going back to that particular video, the beautiful thing about it, right, is that she understands that, let's just say hypothetically that I would love to get an update on where they are, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of an odd looking bunch. I don't necessarily know if he's ready for that type of woman.
You got to be ready for that. That's true.
Because I don't know enough about him to be able to assess whether or not he's ready for that type of woman. But I can see from his demeanor that he has more of a stoic demeanor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even in his responses, he was very stoic and monotone in his responses. But just from a visual standpoint, I don't really understand, or know his dynamic. So here's what I'll say. This is the good thing, is that with her going into any relationship with that type of mind frame and that bravado about herself, understanding the power of her femininity and understanding her potential role in that relationship, once she figures him out, she becomes his wise counsel. She becomes the person that he relies on for making accurate decisions within the structure of their relationship, the structure of the life that they build together. Because you can tell off the rip, she's
Yes.
super smart. And, you know, there's an essence that radiates from her that is unmatched by a lot of modern women. Now, what I will say, kind of going back to this, is she is better positioned to be able to identify whether or not he's a good fit for her or not. But I
Yeah.
can guarantee you, a lot of the other women that were in that same room with her are not.
Nah. Can I ask you this? What is your percentage on that she probably had grandma and granddad and mom and dad?
I would say probably I would lean towards 100% on either dad or grandfather. Or either she has
I
yeah,
say
no,
she had both.
I would
I say she had both.
because she's wise, bro.
Yes. And she had grandma and granddad. So she's seen a elderly couple do it. And she's had mom and dad in her life. So she's had two women who's been successful guiding her. That's a double whammy answer, the way she answered.
That's a
Because
different level of relational education.
yes, that's old soul. You don't get that when your mama's 41. That's old soul relationship knowledge right there. That's understanding that says how it's supposed to be done. I'm here as a help mate, not a help equal, not none of that. I'm as a help mate. You got the captain and you got the first mate.
Yep.
The captain of the ship is here. The first mate here is to make sure everything goes smooth. He's in charge of the deck hands. He's making sure the captain just here to steer the ship. That first mate is
Is
basically
a real hero.
yes.
That's the actual real captain of the ship. And you know the funny thing is, you think about the dynamics of a kingdom, right? With both a king and a queen. When the king is out fighting or hunting, who's holding everything down? The queen. And she's happily operating within her role, within her parameters. And she understands that the king has laid the foundation. She operates within it. And she and understands that the king has final say so or authority. And there may be times where she makes a decision and he says nothing because there's a certain level of trust there. There's a certain level that, no, you got it. You make that decision. I'm here to support you. But if he feels like she's not making a good decision or a bad decision or he doesn't agree with it, he'll step in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women don't operate like that nowadays. And they're questioning as to why they can't get a good man, or they're questioning as to why their relationships are ended up the way that they're ending up is because you're not operating from that standpoint. So go ahead. Sorry.
I sent you a video last week after we got through. I think it was last Thursday after we got through. It was about a female doctor who was having a conversation with her husband and her son. And because the dynamics in the role changed, where she was successful because she was successful. She was a very successful doctor. The husband took more of the taking home the control of the home, making sure the boys were at school and, you know what I'm saying, did all of that. Well, son came in, was asking for help being a lawyer, going to law school. Mom was like, no, you got to do it the way I did it. Get it out the mud. Student loans, scholarships, you got to go do it. The kid was like, well, Mom, your parents weren't in the financial situation to help you like you are. And that dynamic showed me how a mother, a woman would, and I don't want to say turn on her young, and I get it. I understand what she was trying to do. But the repercussions after the conversation, she jumps up, and because the kid made a statement that she couldn't rebut, she lashed out at the husband saying, "You are not helping me. You're always double teaming me." And the husband was like, "Well, wait a minute. He made some good points. And he's always said that, you know what I'm saying, he's going to become a lawyer and make sure mom is straight." And so she couldn't fathom that in her head. All she was thinking is that it went from a conversation to y'all attacking me, which I didn't get that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe because I'm looking at it logically. But the dynamic of that and how I tied it into what I'm saying about this young lady in this video, the pressures of being in control is a lot. And like you said, sometimes men were created to carry those pressures because of the broad show. It was created to handle those wide loads. Women wasn't. Because to me, this wasn't a conversation to where it was a pressure-like conversation. It's a conversation that you're having with your kids about furthering education, about helping. Instead of setting out a plan, well, okay, I'm going to help you, but here's the parameters around this. You have to do, and this is how you're going to pay me back. You have to do blah, 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 blah. Things that I think that a father would have done if he was in the role of being the head of the family, because obviously this guy, I don't think, was the head of the family because it's the dynamic of the money. So you could tell that she ran things and she did things because of the money dynamic. But it got all out of hand because she wasn't capable of being the leader. And it took on social media like a barnstorm. You had women tell me, "That's right, you're supposed to kick your son, kick your son out." Now you done gave your son 18 years of basically leisure, and you're stressing school, you're stressing betterment. So he's coming to you asking for help. Now you want to tell him you got to get it by yourself. Just that was a little tidbit I wanted to throw in, you know what I'm saying, about when you was talking about, you know what I'm saying, the leadership and the dynamic. Yes, that young man in that video showed that he was not that young woman in that video shows that she's a proper number two. Even from the family, king or queen, she's the proper number two. She understands that, hey, I am his backbone. I'm going to stir him in the right direction, because you hear the answers in what she was saying. When I'm going to make sure when my world comes into your world, what it brings to your world to uplift your world. What do you hear that at nowadays?
So to kind of tie in the video that you're referring to, so there's a couple things that when I watched it that I thought were kind of interesting. Number one, the thing that immediately stuck out to me was the dynamic of the father versus the mother, right? Obviously, the financial aspect of their relationship, she's highly successful, and therefore she feels like she needs to be the one in control. And his demeanor and his presence, how he showed up in the family and in the video was kind of off-putting, because it's like it almost appears like his balls are snipped. And so with the child, although I understand what she was trying to communicate, I think it would be a better conversation coming from the father. It's man on man. Hey, we'll help you, but you got to get it out the mud to some degree. Why? Because there's certain life lessons that come along with that. More things that are handed to you, and I also understand, the more things that are handed to you, you kind of become there is a perception that you're owed something and that you don't necessarily have to work for things. And I think that's what she was trying to communicate, not done effectively at all whatsoever. And then, but I also understand the son's dynamic as well, because he's looking at it from the standpoint of, white people do a better job of positioning their children to be successful in life. And within the Black community, it's a thing that we struggle in. And a lot of it comes from, because our parents had to get it out the mud. The assumption is that you got to get it out the mud. And to some degree, there is some benefits from that. But then there's also benefits from, your family helping you. Now, what I would say is how I would, if I was positioned like her and I was speaking from that dynamic, my maybe I wouldn't necessarily communicate this to them, but what my plan would be that you go work, you get it out the mud, and then when you pass, we'll take care of your bills. That way they learn those life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, as a parent, having those means can ensure that once you have finished, you have done the work, you've put in the time and effort, and you did your job, I
Mm-hmm.
can then take that load off of you because you earned it.
You earned it.
So the same thing gets accomplished. It just gets accomplished a different way. All right.
And you were right. The man should have stepped in and said that.
Yeah. So, but going back to the video, and I didn't read the comments, right? Because I think I watched it on my lunch break at work. I'm not surprised by the comments because as I was watching it, right, I
Yeah.
kind of picked up a lot of women that saw it would say that she's a pickme, which I think is a stupid term
Because you want to be picked.
because you want to be picked. Like it's a stupid term. It's one of those terms that was made up ironically by women against women, but then there's like this, and it's within our community, right? It's predominantly within the Black community that this term operates within, but it's women putting down other women, and then but there's a perception that men don't protect Black women, which I'm not even going to go down that road. That's a different thing. So I am not surprised that the comments would go like that because the vast majority of those women and or men that are making these comments are the same individuals who are less likely to end up in any semblance of a successful relationship, and they'll be on social media down the road screaming at the top of their lung about how some Pookie or Riri or JoJo or whoever, they got into a relationship with and they did them wrong and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And then I guarantee you, if you ask the man in that relationship, they would probably say that she was hard to deal with and blah, blah, blah. I always say, if the relationship dynamic that exists in 2025 is ever going to change, women have to take control of the ship. And how do you take control of the ship? You move and or operate in the same manner that she does. Because in that space that she's operating from, she is well equipped to be able to identify that, nope, you ain't the one. You're not positioned because you don't move like a leader, or your leadership style doesn't match what I need. Because let's be honest, right? There are, I did a couple videos talking about the different type of leadership styles. There's the authoritarian, right? And that's more of the controller, the one who has to have the say so, who, he demands certain things. For certain people, that fits their type of personality because they need that level,
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also the laissez-faire leadership style, which is more of a laid-back kind of person, which is the guy in the video that you were referring to. He kind of has this, go along to get along type of leadership style, and I'm pretty sure there are times where he has to put his foot down, but for the most part, he's like, yeah, whatever. And that dynamic may work for their relationship because obviously they're a little bit older, so that relationship might work for them because she's more of an authoritarian leader, or it could be that you need somebody who's transformational, who's like, let's build this thing together. I rely on you, you rely on me. Let's use the good parts of both of our personalities and what we bring to the table to help build this empire.
Mm-hmm.
But you both got to be on the same page with that. And so I think that, yes, men hold the key to relationships, but their path to seeking relationship is outlined by the approach that women take to relationship. And so men try to adjust to whatever the dynamic is that the women set. Or if they think it's too hard to deal with, they just go off on their own and don't even, try to seek a relationship.
And that's the hard part too, because we have a lot of good men, like you said earlier in the podcast. We have a lot of good men who, in that area, who subsequently are never going to be in meaningful relationships.
I just want to make this point real fast because it just popped in my head. Pick me. That is an egotistical, entitled statement.
It's an oxymoron.
It is, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. It is an oxymoron.
Because
more moronic than anything else.
You saying they are pick me, but you telling the man that for him, what he has to do to get you, you basically saying he has to do these things to pick you. So you're calling them a pick me, but you want a man to pick you because of who you are.
But what's the opposite of a pick me? A don't pick me.
Pick me.
A don't pick me. So if you think being a pick me is wrong, you're signaling, you're putting out there into the ether, into the atmosphere. If your energy is don't pick me, but then you cannot get online and start complaining about you not being picked. Or why the men don't want to chase us anymore? Why the men don't want to come talk to us no more? Because the energies you putting out there is you don't want to be picked. All right, cool. Hands off.
Hands off. You don't want to be picked. So I'm going to go somewhere where they want to be picked. Oh.
I just wanted to end the conversation on that because that popped in my head and I was like,
girl math.
The most moronic oxymoron that exists.
Like the young boys say now, that's girl math.
That's a different topic for a different day. But anyways, G.
What's that, baby? Hey, y'all know where to find you, boy. 3 new followers this week. Thank you so much. Wise and Smart 22.
On the gram.
Going up on a Monday on Instagram. Hey, thank y'all for, intertwining with, my man Juanito on this relationship talk thing. I appreciate y'all for being here. I'm going to say it before he mess it up. Like, comment, subscribe, share to this podcast. Because he be late on the share part.
You forgot one.
What? Which one I forgot?
Hit the pin for the notifications, sir.
My bad.
Uh-huh. See, it ain't so easy, huh? Yeah, see? Okay, yeah. But make sure
pin for notifications.
See, hey, you gotta learn that for when you start your podcast.
Yes, hey, 2026, we gonna start it, man, and we're gonna have a lot of fun on mine. But hey, once again, thank y'all for being here with us on a weekly basis. I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? It's opening up me to some people outside of my bubble, because I am in a bubble. But I appreciate being out there. So thank you to my guy Juan for bringing me along on this journey. So again, hit the pin for notification. Like, comment, subscribe, and share to get all this knowledge.
All right, and make sure that if you guys hit Big G up on Instagram, that's Wise and Smart 22, make sure that you drop him a note, a DM, letting him know where you found him so that he knows that it's okay to add you.
Yes.
And for me, you can find all of my information down in the description. Also, I want to say thank you to our coming up 3,000 subscribers. You guys have been watching the videos, watching the clips, leaving comments. Hey, it's popping over there on TikTok because it'd be some engagement over there. So make sure you guys are liking and commenting and subscribing and sharing and hitting that pin for notifications so that you get notified when we either go live or I drop a new video during the week and or when clips drop. Lastly is I don't have my book here. I do have my book is available on Amazon. It is titled Aligned Love, the modern guide to finding and building fulfilling relationships. And once again, that's available on Amazon. That link is down in the description. Before we head out, Big G, you got any last words?
Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to you all. Thank you for
Don't
being here
forget
with
Boxing
us.
Day.
Boxing Day.
Look it up. It's the 26th.
Hey, he got me on that one. I don't know nothing about that one. I'm gonna have to look that
Look
one
it up. All right, everybody. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Boxing Day. And if I don't catch you before the new year, Happy New Year, Happy 2026. And with that being said, this is Coach Robinson. That is Big G signing out. Good night.
Good night.